Whether we're talking about systems, money, wealth, or the undercurrent of human greed and the overwhelming desire for gain, the question I set out to you is, what alternative economic models could be considered? And I'm wonderfully honored to be joined here by a great lineup of thinkers and doers. And to start with, I'm going to ask Charlotte to start with her take on the point and the context in general, in which way you like. Charlotte, over to you. What's your feeling? What's your reflection?
So I live in Grimsby in England, northeast of the country, where there's quite high levels of poverty as well. But with myself being relatively well educated and capable of earning money, looking around and seeing that real disparity between the ability to do that or not, and how that set you up in your circumstances for life, basically.
It's never been harder to see what's happening around us because we're being bombarded with news.
I'm more interested in new social models, of which I think economics is one part. So when I look at the economic side of things, I mean, most economic models are based on the theory of rational expectations, and humans don't behave rationally. So, you know, you're building economic models on assumptions that are flawed. So the outcomes from those models are flawed from the outset.
Yeah. So where I'm coming from is very much with a layman's perspective and wanting to, I guess, almost sort of push myself into a space where I'm getting more and more comfortable with saying, I don't understand. Can you explain what that means? So very basically, I have always struggled with why things work the way they do. It doesn't seem to feel right.
So there's an absence of awareness of the links between things. So I think to begin with, if economic policy was based on a much more multidisciplinary approach, incorporating a lot of other things, including...
So I'm the director of a social enterprise, and you know, the penny dropped with me a couple of years ago, and I thought, you don't need massive profits, you don't need to be rich. Like, what do you even need money for? You know, beyond the basics.
The one thing that I wanted to just quickly comment on was this, you know, that big question about what do I actually need money for? And that is really refreshing, because kind of as a follow-on question, and maybe one rather than just damning, you know, billionaires. One, what do we need money for, really? You know, at what point does it stop giving us happiness? But also, when at what point, what is it in people that made it crucial for them to feel panic when they looked at potentially only having 15 million in the bank as opposed to 30?
So studies have shown that £70,000 a year is the point at which you don't get much happier.
You know, I think it is a human problem. Money doesn't make you happy. I've certainly found when I got to earning a certain amount of money, I hated what I was doing, and I decided then that I wasn't going to do stuff that I didn't like for money.
I'm all for a radical new way of doing things, and I think it's a bit like the environmental policies, isn't it? Where, you know, they're gradually going to become law.
With what Christy said right at the beginning of this call about, you know, social models probably being preferable over economic models, all of a sudden, and talking about, you know, this need to connect with ourselves again and really discover our own humanity, there suddenly seems to be this link in my head between, you know, what we'll say, take music and maths. Now, if you use music as a way of expressing your humanity, you know, your frailty, your desire to connect, your, you know, really sort of trying to show your soul. Now, you can then mathematically describe that. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering whether having the sort of social models and having the conversation really around what are we missing, what is lacking, how can we express ourselves, what do we need, you know, more freedom to do, what do we value? Eventually, you could put the maths around it.